Tōku reo tōku oho, Mapi maurea whakakai Māori. Nei rā te kaupapa ko te reo Māori e. Ngā tūpuna. He pare kawa kawa he mea hira hira e. Tōku reo tōku oho, Mapihi maurea whakakai Māori. Do you know what? I've always wanted to be part of one of those flash mobs. You guys are pretty hopeless, actually. But thank you for that. I asked if I could bring a blade shearer and a sheep to really get us in the mood, but they said no, so this was it. Kei te mihi nui ki a koutou katoa. Ko waiau. Kei te uri a hau noa rangitāne, tamaki nui ārua, āti hau nui a paparangi, Ngāti rangi hoki. Ko Mavis Mullins a hau, tēnā koutou, kia ora koutou katoa. So I'm a wife and a mother, I'm a grandmother, I'm a great-grandmother, I'm a farmer, I'm a babysitter, I'm an average cook, but a pretty good house cleaner. Besides that, I'm also a businesswoman. I am a governor, and actually I'm an iwi chair. And when you put all those things together, whānau, you actually end up being a herder of cats, a dartboard, a doormat, and sometimes all of those things at once. And terrible this may sound, but actually I think I love it, which is a worry. But I'm really stoked to be able to share with you tonight some of the messages that I guess my career I've learned, and also to just look at this Te Ōhanga report and just let's get some tips out of that. But my leadership journey has been varied, and I guess this is what I want to say, you can't overthink your journey. I started in the wool sheds of the Hawke's Bay, the wool sheds of Aotearoa, the wool sheds of Australia, and you can't call them wool sheds, but where you shear sheep in the UK. But that actually took me to a place where I started to question and want to understand the science, the protein of wool, the things that make our red meat attractive and help us keep healthy. It led me to understand the genetics of forages, the science of soil. So, you start here, all of a sudden, being a bit of a know-all, you end up over here. You can't plan these things. From a farmer, simple farmer, to all of a sudden, we are now producers of safe food, not just for us, but for overseas markets, complete with regulation and compliance, all that stuff. You start here, you end up there. From a small rural business owner to sitting around tables of a global multinational, you start here, you end up there. And then really the big thing for me was being able to be around our nannies, our koro, our whānau, uncles and aunties, and hear the stories of loss, to understand the protection of what was left, and then the privilege of being able to be a negotiator and a settler for our treaty claims, rangitāne tamaki nui ārua, rangitāne wararapa. What a privilege. And you can't overthink where you're going to end up. The 12-year-old me, or even my parents, would never have envisaged any of this. So I guess for a lot of us, don't overthink it. Just roll with it, because you never know where it's going to take you. But it's been an amazing journey. But with that, as I think about all of those things, 3 words come to mind that have almost been a bit of a, what would you call it, a template, a matrix for me. And these 3 things better be present. You've got to be desperate. and whether that's good or bad, you've got to be desperate. I'll give an example in a minute. You've got to be prepared to sweat. You've got to be able to sweat for it, and you've got to understand your purpose. So let me give an example. Matai mentioned, I'm honoured to be a board member on whānau Fisheries on behalf of us all. The desperation there is that we protect and help resilient-ise our taonga that our tupuna fought for in a treaty settlement. You've got to be desperate for that. The perspiration, climate change is getting us, rising sea temperatures, extreme weather events, labour shortages. That's enough to put a sweat on the brow, believe me. But the purpose, our purpose is our whānau, our mokopuna. Our purpose is also our commitment to tangaroa, to papatuanuku. Purpose keeps the fuel. Purpose keeps the energy up. So think about those three things if you're dabbling or interested or in business, and if you're not desperate to make this happen, if you're not prepared to sweat for it, and you don't really have a key purpose, can I suggest you rethink? Rethink before it gets too late. But I do want to have just a few words about Te Ōhanga Māori, the report that's recently been released. It's Te Ōhanga Māori 2023, so it's already out of date. But there's some amazing stats, there's some amazing data in there. I'm not going to ask you to put your hand up if you've read it, but I hope you've at least read the executive summary page. It's one page. There's some amazing stuff, and there's three things I want to talk to us, share with us about that. The first thing is, whānau, we are transforming. We are transforming. In the past, our asset base has been around fish, forest, farms, and they will always be there. But the data this time has shown that there's been a shift. Professional services, technical services, admin, those services have now outweighed, if you like, our primary sector footprint. Not a surprise to me. The primary sector now is very sophisticated. Precision farming, genetics, it's all there. So it makes sense that our people are now also our legal advisors, our investment managers, our marine biologists, they're our soil scientists, they're our creatives, they're our marketers. We're simply working through the value chain. To me, that's just tingling. And I hope you feel that too, because this is an important phase of Māoridom. And then demographics. Since 2018, the Māori population has grown by 14%. We're on the rise. I have to take some credit for that. 4 children and 17 mokopuna and some greats. We're good at this. So the demographics are important. They're important. The other thing they tell us is that 55% of us, or actually you, are under the age of 30. There is a bubble. There's a bulge coming. We've kind of always known it, but it's never really been quantified. And when we think about that bulge, a lot of them are our raukura. They're our graduates from kohanga, from kura. They're taking our spaces. It's fantastic that this is happening. The problem is they're impatient, they're entitled, they... Oh, we know this, don't we? We know this. They're all of that. They're different than us. How are we preparing ourselves, our rooms, our tables, our businesses, so we keep them here? That they feel they belong in those spaces. It's a big challenge for us, whānau. The demographics are telling us we need to be thinking again about that. The last thing I want to talk about, though, the trends are all amazing. It feels good. But I'm one of those people who kind of looks for the gaps. The disparities are still there. They're not going away. We might be growing an asset base, but we're not growing the taonga that is ours, our whānau, our people. We're still not healthy, wealthy, well-being. We got work to do. So let's not congratulate ourselves too much on the demographics or on the report, because there's still far too much to do. So anyway, it's just about time to wrap this. So some takeaways. First thing is, please read the report and look inside the words. And where do you fit? What is it that we can do? What is it you can do? Replenish your kite. Keep replenishing your kite, because if our kite is not full, how can we give? So keep replenishing our kite. Find your tribe. Find the truth tellers, the ones that tell you the stuff you actually don't want to hear. They're important. The wayfinders, the change makers. Find your tribe. I've got a beautiful tribe of wahine, and I know that they're there for me every step of the way, just like I am for them. It's powerful. Be humble, or stay humble, sorry. Let's stay humble. I think we've all seen examples when sometimes that doesn't quite feel right. Stay humble, know your weaknesses, and if you can't, sort of fill your weakness, find the ones that can. When I'm on a board, I'm always looking for the one that will fill my gaps. Be kind to yourself, because it's a tough gig out there, and there's enough enemies. We don't need to take it on board. In fact, I'll tell you something, my time is just about up, but we're all so nervous for this gig, and a lot of us do a fair bit of public speaking, and I've figured out why. You know why? Because we're talking to our own, and we are so judgy. We are so judgy to our own whānau. So if we all come up with the witty-witties, you know why. But let's be very thoughtful about that. It's a hard world out there. Let's look after each other. Let's look after ourselves, because we are the fruition of the aspirations of our tupuna. That's all of us. Tēnā koutou, kia ora koutou katoa.